Good morning, everyone. So again, we will start as usual with the mindful breathing exercise to quiet our mind for a few moments. Then we can think how fortunate we are that we have this precious human life. And that we are healthy enough to practice the Dharma. When we are still alive. Just within this year, this month, this week, even within these 24 hours, so many people have lost their life suddenly, unexpectedly. We are so fortunate that we are still alive. And we do not know how many years that we have. Therefore, at the moment when I'm still alive and health is relatively quite good to practice the Dharma, I must, without postponing, delaying, as much as I can, Because it is only the Dharma that can help our mind while we are alive, at the time of death and after death. And in order to practice the Dharma correctly, continuously, I must continue to study, continue to practice as much as possible, integrate and apply as much as possible in our everyday life. Therefore, I'm going to listen to the Dharma and engage in the discussions, reflection, contemplations. May listening to the Dharma become cause and conditions to grow our loving kindness, compassion, and the wisdom. And may it be cause and condition to achieve fully awakened state, so we can be most greatest help and benefit to all sentient beings. Okay.
Let's take refuge and generate bodhicitta once in English and twice in Tibetan. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Sangye choran soki chonam la chanchu bardu dagni kapsuchi dagi chonen gepe sognam gi drola pencher sange druparsho sange choran soki chonam la chanchu bardu dagni kapsuchi Dagi chonen gepe sonangi drola penshir sange druparsho.
Anje dujani zone dawadam jepang beja bechuni denzebe bodam de la chatsa lo. So we have been going through the Lamrim gradual path text by the Third Dalai Lama. And we are in sections where coming about how to take our life, how to make our life meaningful, engage in the practice of very high training, very training of telescope practice. And within that, he talked about how all the teachings of the Buddhas that he gave over 45 years after his enlightenment, how all of those teachings and practice contains within those teaching and practice of those three capacity or three scopes. And then, even though the Lamrim practice, as we mentioned last week, the actual main primary practice or the heart practice or the body practice, the actual practice of Lamrim is the bodhisattva practice, the great scope. Even though it's that, then why the disciple or the practitioner need to be led through the practice of initial and middle scope if this main practice is the great scope? So in leading to that, then here here it says the reason for leading experience through those three levels. Although the practice of all three levels of spiritual applications are taught in the Lamrim traditions, it's done only because it is necessary to go through the two lower levels of practice as branches. I think we went that through. Did we finish? Yeah, I think we finished. I think it is here a little bit down there. And where we talk about temporary benefit of contemplating. In order to generate bodhicitta mind, then we need to reflect on the benefit of the bodhicitta mind, and within the bodhicitta mind, temporary benefit and ultimate benefit. I think we finish up to that. Hence, it is indispensable as a prerequisite for the bodhicitta. You must generate great compassion that is unable to tolerate the suffering of all sentient beings. So as Nagarjuna mentions, as well as Chandrakiri mentions, the great Indian masters, and in the sutras, the main root cause of the bodhicitta mind is the great compassion. Without the great compassion, there's no way to develop the bodhicitta mind. Absolutely no way to develop bodhicitta mind without cultivating the great compassions. So the great compassion is required to cultivate before the bodhicitta. And when we talk about great compassion, of course, it will come later in more details. But also, great compassion means unconditional compassions, impartial compassion, meaning that to have that unconditional compassion each and every sentient beings, whether they are related with you in a good way or bad way, or whether they are not related. To be able to feel equal compassions, unconditional equal compassion, including for those who are being not kind to you, who have been mean to you. That is what great compassion is. Compassion, great compassion, they're different. There could be compassions, which is you could have compassion on one person. You could have compassion for 10 persons, 100 persons, 100 beings. But when we talk about great compassion, then you have it is that compassion to each and every sentient beings. So in order to great compassion, then you need to first cultivate compassion. And we explain that compassion to each and every sentient beings. And eventually it becomes great compassion. And that great compassion is the very root cause of the bodhicitta mind. So here, the great compassion, so that is where we have to understand compassion and great compassion, difference between those two things. Okay? This great compassion for others depend upon an intense awareness of undesirable experience suffering of your own continuum. So first, we have to understand our own sufferings. Through understanding our own suffering, and then you can relate with others' sufferings by understanding your own suffering. If you don't if you don't have understanding your sufferings, then it will be very hard to relate to the other suffering because you wouldn't know what it is to be in that sufferings. You can only kind of imagine in some way, assume in certain way, but you wouldn't really be able to really feel same way how other is feeling or how other is going through. So in order to really feel the pain and suffering of others, we give rise to the compassions towards others. First, you need to have good understanding of your own sufferings and good experience. So first train in the practice of low capacity practices by contemplating on the miseries or the suffering experienced in the lower ends. So we start by meditating, contemplating on suffering of all sentient beings, but especially the suffering of sentient beings who are experiencing intense sufferings. All sentient beings might be experiencing suffering, but when the suffering is not so intense, sometimes it is hard to feel compassion. Sometimes it is hard to understand that being a suffering. So first we start with something that it is easy to feel compassion. And the easy to feel compassion is those sentient beings who are experiencing very intense sufferings. Not only suffering, but very gross and very intense sufferings. And that is the suffering of lower rebirth, the lower rebirth, and that is because if you, and so therefore first, that is why contemplating. From contemplating this arises a mind that longs for liberation from those rebirths. And when you meditate on the intense suffering of the lower rebirth, it is easy to feel compassion for them because the suffering is so intense and so unbearable. Secondly, you feel, if I cannot withstand the hardship of this suffering, there's no way I will be able to withstand or experience such unbearable sufferings, intense suffering of lower rebirth. And through that understanding, then you generate a strong longing or wish to be free from such state and such sufferings and such rebirth. After that, then take upon the intermediate practice by contemplating on transcendent nature of joys in the heavenly realms. So then next, then we meditate on sufferings of other sentient beings in the higher rebirth, which are not as intense as those in the lower rebirth, but still they're experiencing suffering. Again, through understanding their sufferings, again, it allows you to cultivate or develop compassion, feel compassion for them, And secondly, when you understand, even in a higher rebirth, even as a human beings, demigod and God, still they are not free from the sufferings. Still they are in the samsara. And as long as you are samsara, you are not free from the sufferings. Your suffering might not be as intense as in the lower rebirth, but still is sufferings. Still you are not free from sufferings. And still you are not free from suffering because you are in samsara. And as mentioned before, being in samsara means your rebirth, your existence, you don't have control. It is driven by the karma and the delusions. And when you lose your control, and when you are being controlled by something else, karma and the delusion, that itself is a suffering. Because you have no freedom, you are a prisoner. Being in a prison of samsara, and you being a prisoner that has been controlled by something, karma and the delusions, that itself is sufferings. So when we understand, it doesn't matter whether you are in a low rebirth or high rebirth, as long as you are in samsara, as long as your rebirth is under the control of delusion samsara, there's no real, true lasting happiness. There's no true, really lasting happiness. When you understand that, then again you generate a strong longing or wish to free, not only from the lower rebirth, but free from whole samsara itself, and not being attached to the samsara at all. And when you are able to develop that, when you have understanding and awareness of that, again, then you can feel compassion for any sentient beings who are in samsara, whether it's a lower rebirth or higher rebirth, because you know they are in samsara and they are suffering one way or another way. Secondly, if we understand as long as samsara, there's no end to the problem. There's no end to the sufferings. We might have temporary, temporary relax. It's like you have a health issue and one day you feel better, but next day you feel very bad. But for one day you feel good, but the next day bad. As long as until you are free from that illness. It's always temporary break, the feeling that you feel good for one day or a few hours. Never ending, that problem coming again and again. And same in samsara, as long as samsara, that is what it is. We feel everything just feel fine and good for a certain period, and then everything started going wrong. And then we say, why? How come everything's going so well? How did everything go wrong? Why did it happen? Well, because we are in samsara. It happened because we are in samsara. And you can't expect in samsara to be good all the time. If we really feel and expect that everything's to go very well all the time, that means we have not really understood the nature of samsara. If we really understand the nature of true samsara, you expect things go up and down. You expect things go up and down. That is part of samsara. That is nature of samsara. Your health up and down. Some days you feel better. Some days you don't feel well. Your mind, some days you feel good. Sometimes you don't feel good. Relationships, sometimes we have better relations. Sometimes we have more challenging relationships. Financial, sometimes you do better. Sometimes all this is part of the nature of samsara. up and down. And if we don't want, it is because it is too tiring to say up and down, and if we are tired of seeing this up and down, and if we want to, and unknowing, unknown, uncertainty, all of that, and you want to, then you have to get out of samsara, free from the samsara. That is the only way. And so when you understand, then you don't really get strongly attached to the samsara. If you don't get strongly attached to the samsara, then you really practice to get out of samsara instead of trying to have a samsaric pleasure within the samsara, which we are very much attached at the moment. So then from this arises renunciation of everything in samsara. Then you develop true renunciations. Renunciation meaning not being attached to any of the samsaric pleasure or samsara. The pleasure itself is not a problem, but when you get attached to this, that becomes a problem. And again, as I mentioned before, renunciation is something to the inside, not outside. It doesn't mean giving up all the external things. It means giving up your attachments. Having a big house, nice house is not a problem. If you are attached to that, then it becomes a problem. If you're attached, if you don't give up attachment, even not having a house can be a problem. And so therefore, so that is the middle, one engaged in a practice of middle scope in order to develop that renunciation by understanding the nature of samsara is a suffering. Regardless of whatever higher or lower rebirth you take, still you are not free from the suffering. Still you are not free from the cause of suffering, the delusion karma. And once you understand, this being in samsara is miserable, painful, sufferings. When you understand that, as long as you're in samsara, whether you have incredible amount of wealth or not, still you are in samsara, still is nature of samsara, sufferings. Even when you feel healthy for a certain period of time, for most of your life, still being healthy, still even you are healthy, still you are in samsara. You are not free from this problem and sufferings. So when we have that understanding, the nature of samsara is a suffering problem, not free from the suffering at all, then you don't get attached to it, and then you can also feel for others who are in samsara, When you look at someone, it looks like that person's looks, they have good job, seems rich, wealth, they seems to have a lot of friends, families, seems nice, good family relationship, everything seems just fine, great. And you might feel, I wish I want to be like them. I wish my life is like them. You get attached to that kind of life, that person's, and you wish to be like that. Instead of feeling compassion, you get envy and jealousy of them, and you want to be like them, or your life want to be like them. that means we have not understood true nature of samsara. If you understand true nature of the samsara, they are also going through a lot of problems, sufferings. It might not be so noticeable for us at the moment, but if you know them enough, if you talk with them, they are going through a lot of challenges, a lot of difficulties, a lot of up and down, a lot of suffering, a lot of pain. When you understand that, then it is easy to, when you understand and feel their pain, suffering, their problem, then it allows you to feel compassion for them. If you don't understand, if you don't feel their pain and suffering, if you think they're just fine, there's no problem, there's no pain, then it's hard to feel compassion for them. Then it's because there's no basis to feel compassion, because you cannot feel and understand their pain and sufferings. That is why that renunciations is so important and key to cultivate compassion to others, especially great compassion to all sentient beings. Finally, thinking that all mother beings face same suffering as you do, So just understanding, for example, I might think at the moment I'm healthy, that could change anytime. At the moment I might think I don't struggle with my basic living conditions. That could also change. At the moment I might feel I have a good relationship with family, friends, whatever. That could also change. There's nothing guaranteed in samsara. Everything could change in one moment. One small misunderstanding could change. Small things could change your health. Everything is so unpredictable, fragile. Everything could change any moment. Why? Because I don't have control over my life, my karma at the moment. I don't know when my karma is going to change any moment. I wish I have control of my karma and I can direct where I want, but at the moment I don't have that. My karma can change anytime, any moment. I'm not from the delusion. Delusion, just being under the influence of delusion, that itself is suffering. Even though your health is good, even though you don't have all these external problems, but your mind is delusion. If you still have your mind have delusions, some things make you impatient. Moment is something make you impatient, and then that is suffering, pain. Something make you frustrated, upset, angry, that is suffering. You feel good and suddenly you feel like empty. Suddenly you feel like, your mind low, down. That is suffering. You feel good and suddenly you feel helpless, hopeless. That is suffering. So therefore, as long as we are not free from the karma, free from the control of the karma, as long as we have those afflictive emotion delusions, you are suffering. You are suffering. So with that understanding, knowing, as long as I'm under the control of delusion, karma, there's no real, true, lasting happiness. It's real nature of suffering. With that understanding, then you know, all sentient beings who are in the same situation, all mother sentient beings, as long as they are samsara, as long as they are under control of delusion and karma, they are not free from the suffering. They don't really have lasting true happiness. So with such understanding, then with your own experience, you can understand them, you can feel that, and through that, then you generate compassions, and generate compassion, wishing them to be free from the suffering, samsara, all the suffering of samsara and the cause of some sufferings. Love and generate love, wishing them to be happiness. And generate love, compassion, bodhicitta, the aspiration. So bodhicitta is the mind, aspiration to the fully enlightenment that is rooted in great compassion and love as the base means to fulfill that love and compassion. As a base means to fulfill that love and compassion means in order to free all sentient beings from suffering and cause of suffering, and in order to lead all sentient beings to the happiness, true happiness and cause of happiness. Thus, therefore, that is how it, thus leading aspirant to the highest capacity practice, so that the bodhisattva practice, by first training their mind in too low capacity, the initial and intermediate, is the supreme and perfect approach to the Dharma. So, when you also, through such practice and approach and understanding, also then, you don't look down on some of the other practice. Thinking, I practice bodhisattva practice, Mahayana practice, those other practices are lower, or those practitioners or others are lower. You don't feel that way, because those are the foundations to reach there. It doesn't mean it's less, it's the foundational practice. So then you have more respect to the other practice, the practice of the initial and intermediate state, and also the practitioner of that. So then coming to the actual training in three scope in details, training the mind on the path shared with the persons of initial capacity. Within that, and here, meditating on death, impermanent, and meditating on the suffering of lower realms or lower rebirth. You have attained this precious human form, And why human life is known as precious? Why is precious? Because to practice the Dharma. Human mind has this capacity of using reasoning and logics. Many other beings, like many of the animals, they are more intuitive. When it comes to intuitive, maybe they are better than we human beings. Also, many other animals, they have better senses than us. Some of them can hear better than we human beings from very distant. Some can smell from very far distant than we do. A lot of their sense faculties in terms of they have better than we. And also intuitively, sometimes they are better than us in some. But then what makes human, why in Buddhist scriptures, you often hear this term, precious human life, precious human rebirth. Why we do that precious? That is referring to, is precious because we have the better condition, opportunity to practice the Dharma, to be able to contemplate, meditate, and to be able to use reasoning and logics. That we human beings has better. Our mind has that capacity. And that kind of mind is needed to really make a big progress in Dharma, to practice the Dharma. So therefore, that is, and especially when you talk precious, especially we are talking about not only human beings, but human beings with 18 qualities. Even that is even more precious, So we have attained this precious human form, difficult to gain, and which such human form, human rebirth is difficult to attain, but especially with 18 qualities, extremely difficult to attain or gain again. And not only is that, it is extremely meaningful. Meaningful, precious, valuable in a sense we talked before. If we use our human life in the right way, correctly, we can achieve happiness of this life. Regardless of external conditions, you can still be very happy. If you use your human life right and train your mind in such a way, you can still be happy, relatively quite happy. Even your health might not be the best condition. Even you might struggle with the financial situations. Even you, with all other, even all the external condition might not be the most best, but still, with this human life, if you train your mind correctly, properly, you direct your human life in such way to really train your mind, you can still relatively be quite happy, even with all those challenges. Not only we can that, we can create all the cause and conditions to have a better rebirth, higher rebirth, and more happiness in the futures. Not only that, we can achieve liberation, total freedom from the karma and the delusions. And not only that, we can achieve, if we direct even more, through the practice of wisdom and compassion or bodhicitta, then you can achieve fully awake and fully enlightened state, the ultimate happiness. Since we have that capacity, that human life has this capacity, therefore is called extremely meaningful, extremely precious, and are now a human beings, So we should be very. And one of the meditations that every morning when we wake up, we try to generate sense of gratitude, grateful, instead of waking up and complaining about our life and everything. Starting your mind, instead of starting the day with complaint and negative, try to start with something positive, something to be grateful, something to be gratitude. And that we start with knowing that how fortunate and lucky that I am. I have this precious human life, if nothing else. If nothing other things, at least I have this precious human life, which has so much potentials, as described here. I'm so grateful, thankful, at least I have this human life, And being grateful, even when even when maybe we are not feeling well, even when our health is not a great condition, being grateful, even though I have some challenges with my health, but it isn't so bad that I cannot practice the Dharma. It isn't, I haven't reached a point where I cannot practice the Dharma. It's so bad that I cannot practice the Dharma. I might have some struggles. I might not feel fully great at health ends, but at least still, if I want, I can still practice the Dharma in some way. I can feel grateful, and grateful that I'm still alive, giving me, to practice the Dharma, because many people, as I mentioned, during the motivation, within these 24 hours, so many people are no more in the world. And we could have been one of them. We never woke up they went to bed and they never woke up. So again, feeling grateful, thankful that that I have this human life, relatively okay, even not greatest health, relatively okay, and then, being alive. So, you try to contemplate and meditate and try to feel that gratitude, So then next, however, this life will not last forever, Even though this human life is so precious, with so much potentials, full of potentials, so much potential, especially when it comes to Dharma practice, it's so much potential. But this life does not last forever, How meaningful, how precious, how grateful, how valuable it is, even though it is, but it will not last forever, It will come to end. It is definite that you will eventually die, Again, we read histories, through the beginning of evolutions, how many sentient beings all are all just in histories, they have died. What they did, good or bad, everything we can learn about them, we can study about them, but all of them just a history. Everyone has died, including all those great spiritual founders, of all the spiritual leaders, including our own spiritual leaders or founders. Buddha Shakyamuni himself is just now a history. He came forth 200, more than 600, 2,600 years before, and now we, read his stories. So if all of them die, we are no exceptions. We are no exceptions. The most powerful people in the history have died. Most spiritual people who are in the history have also died. Most wealthiest people throughout the history, they have also died. Most intelligent persons, they also have. No one was exception, nor is we are exception. We are no different from them, our life. So, because sometimes it feels like they die, I'm not going to die, as though I'm the exception now. I understand everyone die, but somehow not me. Understand intellectually, that is how we don't feel. And that is where you have to have this awareness and realization where you feel, I will die one day. That awareness is very powerful. That awareness is very powerful to help us to be on the path and not be, losing the path. and to practice the Dharma and true Dharma, pure Dharma. So through such meditations, of course, in a way, we all know we are going to die in the back, but we don't think I'm going to die today. We don't even think I'm going to die this month, this year. We all are giving a lot of time on ourselves. We all think, I have at least 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, depending on your age, Still, we always feel there is time. And that is the misleading part. If you think, you meditate and think if you are going to die tomorrow or next week, next month, next year, how are you going to spend the rest of your life now? Think about it. How are you going to spend the rest of your life if you have only 1 year, 1 month, 1 week? How will you spend the rest of your life? Compared to if you are going to live 20 years. There is a huge difference. Also, there are a lot of research where of people who have near-death experience, how their life changed after that experience. Their perspective about life, how much it changed for them to become more spiritual, more kind, more compassionate. Because the death was so close to them, they almost had it. And it is like they got a new, and because of that, same, when you have awareness or realization of death impermanent, that could change our perceptions about life, spend our life, direct our life, that will have a huge impact. Moreover, you do not know how long death will wait before striking. And that is the main thing. So somehow, in some way, we know death is coming. Even though we don't have that awareness every day, even though we don't have that awareness every day, but back of our head, we know it is coming. It will come one day, somehow. But the thing that does not come to our mind is that I could die anytime. That could come anytime. And since we don't have that awareness that could come anytime, we always think there is time for us. As the time will wait for us to finish everything that we need to do, prepare ourselves. And when the death suddenly comes in some way, another way, we are not prepared. We are not prepared. We are not prepared. And when we are not prepared and it comes, then it becomes a lot of difficult, a lot of struggles. And you want to do a lot of things differently, but then it's too late. There's no more time. By that time, you wish I could have done this, I could have done that. I shouldn't have done this, that. But then it's too late. Time is not with your side. But on the other hand, if you have that awareness now through such practice and meditation, it's never too late. If you want to change things, you can change. And that is where that we want to have this awareness so that we can prepare ourselves now, so then when the time comes, whenever it comes, you have less regret, less guilt, more prepared. Mm. And one of the reasons why, we think the life is still on my side, or that I have more time on my side, is because we feel we are healthy, we don't have any kind of illness that can say you have only 1 year to live, or 6 months, 3 years. Your health seems just okay, fine. Age seems to be on our side. Well, average in this country maybe 80s minimum, and I'm still not there, or 90s, or maybe 100s. I'm still not there. It's still not there, and even there, we expect maybe I could live more than 100. So again, because we feel age is on our side, health is on our side. Maybe if we are living in a war zone places, like at the moment in Gaza, maybe you might feel you never know when the bomb will drop anytime, and you could be gone, or you could be hit by missile or whatever. At least in those conditions, maybe you feel, things can change very quickly. You can die very quickly, soon. But we feel we are in the same environment, so all of that. But again, all this reason why we feel I will not die now and I still have time, that can be all deceiving. There's no guarantee, the baby who is born and only 1 year, and someone who is 100 years, there's no guarantee who is going to live more. And again, it's not just imagination and just thinking. We see, newly born child dying before grandparent. Age is not. We also see around us healthy people dying before someone who has been chronic and who thought that they will die. And then suddenly someone who seems very fine, healthy, no illness, diagnosed anything, suddenly dying. Just because you feel you are in a more peaceful environment doesn't guarantee that too. Snake might bite you. You could have food poisonings. You could have an accident, while you are walking or while you are driving. There are all these possibilities and so therefore, through such meditation, contemplations, the point is you try to meditate with many different reasoning and logic, and especially using your example around you to make it personal, not as something that you are watching a movie of someone that happened, but make it personal, taking example that has happened close to you, your family member, your friend that you have known very closely, who died suddenly, who are healthy but who died suddenly, who are young but who died suddenly, and who are in good conditions or environment, peaceful condition, and who died suddenly. Something that when you meditate, contemplate in that way, it becomes more personal. It brings more closer to yourself instead of watching a movie with someone else there. Through such meditation, contemplation, the point is to develop or to cultivate what we call realization or awareness. Not only I will die one day, but that could come anytime, any moment. That is the awareness we want to have through such meditation, contemplation. That could come anytime, any moment. And when you have that awareness, that could come anytime, any moment, you start to prepare for that. If you prepare yourself better, even the day doesn't come today, this week, this month, it's great, but you have prepared. Whenever it comes, you have prepared. Whenever it comes, you have prepared yourself. And so, instead of being unprepared, that is definitely going to happen. It's better to be prepared. And also, when we have that awareness, that impermanence, that could come anytime, any moment, it helps to reduce many of your negative emotions. It helps to you to forgive. If you need to forgive someone, where you have struggled to forgive, when you know that I could die tomorrow, you feel there's no point of holding that feeling. Why should I hold when I'm going to die tomorrow? What is the point of holding that? It becomes more easy to forgive. Let it go. Also, when you feel I could die any moment, even tomorrow, today, you have less desire, less attachments. That is when people, when their life comes to closer, and when they know actually they have only certain time, they have less desire and they can give things. They don't hold. They started to give to things. They started to. But if they were thinking they were not going to die for 10 years, 20 years, they need, not only they can't give, but they think, I need this, I need that, I want that, I need to collect that. So more desire, more attachments. But when you have that realization or awareness, it reduces your desire, your attachments, it's easy to reduce or more easy to reduce bad feeling, resentment, anger, grudges, and easy to forgive, So, and when you are able to do that, when you have less desire, less attachments, you're more happy. Your mind is more calm, more happy, And also with the less resentment and hard feeling also, then again, you are more peaceful, calm, more happy. So therefore, immediately exert effort to take life essence. And so once you have that understanding or awareness that could anytime, then, you try to make your life meaningful and take the essence from your life by practicing the Dharma without postponing. We keep postponing because we think it is not coming, that death is not coming. If you know it could come this month, then you will not postpone, you will start a practice. Quick now. I have a friend, a Geshe, and he had a friend who was in retreat in Dharamsala. She said later, he was not feeling well, and he went to see doctor, and then they diagnosed cancer. And then doctor told he need to do the surgeries. And if he doesn't do surgery, he will die in 2-3 months. If he did the surgery, then he has some hope. They couldn't guarantee him, but they said there is some hope. That he can live 2-3 years more. And of course, he had to make the decisions, what to do, And at the very beginning, and he said his mind was a little disturbed when he heard that, But then, he started to think and reflect and contemplate, and accept, and that. Then he was able to deal with it much, and he decided not to go for surgery, And so, and then of course he died, I think maybe not exactly after 2 months, but 3-4 months later. But later he told my friend Geshe, that, even though he has been doing retreat and meditation for a long time, he said the most powerful practice he had in those 2-3 months after he was diagnosed cancer, he's told, those 2-3 months were some of the most powerful practice he had, even though he had been doing practice for so long. And that is what it makes difference. By that time, he knew the death was coming. He knew that it's coming in 2 months, 3 months. And once he has that awareness that it's definitely coming because of situations, his practice was much more powerful and became more real and pure and powerful. And that is how he felt. So that is the example of that, If someone has, it doesn't have to be the external condition for like that, but if someone has that realization, awareness, even without the external condition, one can feel same way, that way. And that is the whole point of contemplating, meditating, is to develop that awareness. So whether we have that external condition or not, but inside our mind, we feel that way, that, that could come any moment, and that will have such a strong impact in our practice meditations. And here he said, you have had infinite previous life in the higher Lord and intermediate realms, but the Lord of death, like a thief in the rich marketplace, has stolen them all indiscriminately. So, we have all kinds of different lives, and each time we die, we never live for forever. Every time we die. How fortunate that he has let me live this long, so again, feeling grateful that I'm still alive, if nothing else. Generally, the mind is so filled with awareness of death that you sit like a man haunted by intense assassin. So basically, you try to develop awareness that death could come anytime, any moment. And with that awareness, then you try to practice as much as possible. One of the Katamba master, again, I cannot recall which Katamba master, he said, I recite, there is a verse from Santa Kitty's, middle way, supplementary. There's a verse we say, if I died now, if the death come now, and without being prepared, and if I'm born into one of the lower rebirth or something like that, then there's no way coming back. It's too late, And so before that comes, I have to start practicing now, and not delay it. So he said, he recited that every morning. And by reciting and contemplating and meditating on that, it makes his practice throughout the day, pure practice. Otherwise, if he doesn't contemplate on death impermanent, even when he practice, the practice becomes a little bit impure, diluted by one of the eight worldly concerns, and the practice doesn't become as pure as it should be. And afternoon also he tried to contemplate that. By reciting that verse, he tried to contemplate. Again, by doing that, again, the rest of the day, whatever practice, meditation he does, it becomes more powerful and more pure. And so he said that is one thing he does, contemplate on death impermanent, every morning, afternoon, so that he can make his throughout the day more powerful, the practice more powerful and more pure. So that is how it can help the practice to become more effective, more powerful when we have that contemplation meditations. Maybe today I will stop here. I can take a couple of questions. And today we will try to finish a little bit early, I think, because the monks want to prepare. So any questions, please? Anyone here?
Yes, sir, we have a question online.
Yes.
Maybe we don't. Do we have a question online?
If you have a question, please raise your hand.
Tesla,
Yeah.
I have kind of a question.
Mm-hmm.
Just the description first. I'll try to make it short. After the reality of my parents, within 3 months, my stepdad died. My father had stage 4 cancer and my mother broke her hip. I came home and I was like, oh my God, I need to prepare for death. I need to get serious. So I increased my practice. I started getting rid of stuff in our house. I tackled some of those, personal and business issues, the stacks of stuff. I mean, I was just like kind of crazy, okay, doing all that. I got so stressed, I wasn't available for my husband. Like I'd make a dinner and it was like, okay, all right, next, I got other things to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so it started affecting my relationship because I wasn't available. So my question is how can we live our lives really with an awareness of impermanence and death, not get stressed, because I take it so seriously, plus realize that the purpose of my life is to benefit others. So on top of all of that, so that's my question.
Yes. And actually, I was going to talk about that because I thought the moment you asked. While you have that awareness, it's like, let's say, there is a there is a announcement, storm coming, and you know it's coming. You prepare yourself, but you don't have to be so stressed about it. You know, you prepare to protect, take care of yourself whatever way it can, but it doesn't mean you freak out and you started to become stressed about it and thinking, oh, maybe it was better it didn't announce, you know. So that is same thing. Through such awareness, we know that it's coming. We have to practice without postponing. But you don't have to push yourself to the limit. You take it, you listen to your body, you listen to your mind, and you do according to that, you know. And you try to bring practice, not just on cushion or things. You bring practice in everyday work. And in that, with that awareness, in relationship, helping the other person is part of the practice. As long as you are trying to, so doesn't think that you are kind of in relationship, you are trying to support and help each other, doesn't think that is different from the practice. If you if you bring the best intentions, that itself is a practice. Cooking for him or her, if you have the good intentions, purpose of my life is to serve others. And this is one of the person that I need to serve. And there are so many different ways, and this is one way of serving and being beneficial, is by cooking or by helping in whatever other help it needs. So I think if you bring that, then you don't have to feel I have to leave everything else here. That is where we talked about before. Renunciation practice is not about changing the external things, it's changing the internal things, mind. It's not necessarily mean running away from the families. Within the family, within the relationship, within the community, whatever, how can I bring more practice to be more patient, more kind, more understanding? And that is where we can improve, putting more effort in that, being more patient, being more kind, more compassionate. And so again, yeah, I think, and also sometimes it is individuals, what you call personality, some people stress over everything, they stress and get nervous with everything. And for that, there is not, I think, yeah, I think for some people, I don't know, because maybe, I think, especially in the West, I think there is this, I don't know where maybe it's coming from, some culture or the environment, sense of need to be perfect. I can't make mistake. There's no space for that mistake. And so when you have that kind of things that there's no, and I have to be perfect in everything, then of course it's going to be we can't be perfect. We are ordinary human being, make mistake. And then it's stress out. It's stress out. You don't have to be so like that, you can just relax, You do your best, but it's possible, even with the best intention. Sometimes we make mistake, and that is okay it's okay. Okay to make mistake. We are not a Buddha. Don't expect yourself to be Buddha. Don't pretend yourself to be Buddha. Even the bodhisattvas make a mistake. Even with the best intention, bodhisattva with such a great compassion, bodhicitta, and even with the wisdom, still they make mistake. The only being who doesn't make mistakes is the Buddha, because there are no obscurations. So therefore, I think being kind and compassionate to yourself and for others also who make mistakes, by accepting, knowing as ordinary beings is part of our life. We make mistakes, we learn from that. Hopefully, sometimes we make many mistakes before we learn. Sometimes we make with one mistake. Sometimes one time mistake we doesn't learn. 2 times, 3 times, maybe we learn. But of course, we try to learn from the mistake. But again, trying not to be too harsh on oneself in that way. And maybe if it's making stress, if such practice of meditation making too stress, then maybe you shouldn't contemplate that too much on that. Then you meditate on something else. Meditations, contemplations also like medicines. When something improves, you have to stop taking that medicine. When something increases by taking some medicines, and if it's something, your blood pressure started to take it, you stop taking it. So you change your meditations, subject of your meditations. That is why when your mind is low, you need some meditation that uplift your mind. Not something that make your mind down. Normally, of course, when we meditate, we talk about, we meditate on the disadvantage of self-centeredness, ego mind, and how this ego mind is negative, this and that, and and about death, impermanent, and so forth. But when your mind is very down and low, those meditation might not be the best to do that. You need some meditation that uplift. And when your mind is distracted with the arrogant or pride or kind of, then you need to meditate on that impermanence and the disadvantage of selfish attitude, and that bring you to be more grounded. So I think again, it also depends. That is why also it depends. It's important to have the teachers or guidance when you are doing retreat. Sometimes people get crazy when they do retreat because they don't get guidance, and they think I have to meditate on that impermanent, and they think, and then that making them stressful and more negative and all of that, and they don't know how to deal it. And if there is a guidance teacher, then they will say, they can guide you from that. And so that is, again, even though those meditations are very powerful, but sometimes, just like medicines, there are certain medicines which are very powerful. Yes. But also, you can't just take it without consulting with your doctor and saying, and then once you take it and saying, oh, side effect I'm having, and this is what is happening, and where the doctor can change the dose or the level or different medicine, and you have to be treated according to that. Same, even those meditation are very powerful tools in that, but sometimes for certain individual in certain situation, their state of mind, it has to be guided in certain way. And so I think those are the things. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Gyatso. We do have 2 more questions. Rachel, your hand is no longer raised. Do you have your question still?
Hi, Geshe.
Yeah.
I'm online, so
Yes.
it's very similar to what Mary was saying, except that my question had to do with choosing with this real attitude of the imminence of death and so on, the making plans and choosing what we do with our life that we have, it gets very complicated. If you want to stay that in that balanced way, not go too extreme in any way, but when is it necessary to say, okay, I'm just going to give everything away and meditate? Or when is it, how do we, as people who are serving others, how do we decide when it is to be that selfish and go off and actually just meditate? How, maybe this is a question more for someone who's guiding individuals, but that was my kind of question. The timing of things, or the making plans. If you think you're going to die in 1 week, why make plans for 2 years from now?
Why plan?
Yeah, why make plans? How can you make any plans if you're planning to not be there?
Yeah. No. Through meditation, we are not going to die. We are so hopeful that I could have only the awareness that is not like I'm definitely going to die tomorrow or next week or next month. The awareness that could come anytime, any moment. It could come in 10 years, it could come in 2 years, it could come in 5 years, or 1 month, whatever. So that is the awareness. It could come. There's no fixed. It could come any moment. And so that same time, some sense is you prepare yourself. If it come tomorrow, next week, you are ready mentally in whatever way you prepare. At the same time, even if it doesn't come, then you have to prepare for almost ever. So you do have planning, but you are not stuck with the planning. Do you see it? Like sometimes you plan A, B, C, D, and your mind is okay with any of those. Do you get it? Your mind is more relaxed and okay with that, but you have some planning. Instead of you have one planning, and when it go wrong, then you are just completely break down because you don't have plan B, you don't have C, you don't have D, then you don't know how to deal with that. You totally. So similarly, there's possibility of that, and generally that is my approach. I'm kind of like that when I plan. I will be happy if it goes to 8. If it doesn't go A, I'm okay happy with the B. If B is not okay, I'm okay with the C, D. And so therefore, you aspire for the A, but at the same time, you are not so attached and you are not so grasping to that. Of course, you work for that. But then, even if I can have B, I will be also quite happy. C is also okay, D. So that is kind of similarly like that approach. You still have planning, but you are not so clinging and grasping. And yeah, maybe that's, I was thinking what another.
Lorna?
Lorna, you have one question, and then we'll probably, this will be our last question.
Great, thank you. Good morning, Geshe.
Mhm.
My question is about higher rebirth, the higher rebirth realms. And I've been wondering about the demigod and the god realms, and really wondering whether they are a higher rebirth opportunity when you can't attain Buddhahood in those realms. And once that karma is done, from my understanding, you're automatically go into the lower realms. So I'm kind of struggling with seeing those as higher rebirth realms, and I'm just wondering what you would have to say about that.
Mhm. Well, it is not necessarily that after the God and demigod you are going to go to hell realm or lower realm. It's not like that. Always, even in there are arhats and also other practitioners, even in times and desire God realm as well. Is higher rebirth. Normally, the higher rebirth, and it is talking about in a higher rebirth, sufferings. Okay, less sufferings. Especially in some of the God realms, not only there is no suffering of suffering, there's no even suffering of change. The only suffering is suffering of all pervasives, so they have less suffering for temporary as long as they are in that realm. In some other God realm, they have suffering of change and suffering of pervasive, but they don't have suffering of sufferings, And so again, relatively is less sufferings. And less suffering, more joy, more happiness. Some sort of joy and happiness. Compared to even human beings. Human beings have suffering or the pain, suffering of change, suffering of all pervasive. We have all the sufferings. But we have less suffering relatively to compare to the lower realms, especially the two lower realms. So that is, I think, when we talk about higher rebirth and lower rebirth, mostly in terms of the level of the suffering, level of the samsaric happiness. I think that is why it is called. But also, of course, the opportunity to practice the Dharma, there is more in human realms than the God and demigod realms, in generally speaking. But it doesn't mean that there is no opportunity to practice the Dharma, even in God and demigod realm. There is still opportunity to practice the Dharma, that they have more distraction than us. And less suffering means less distraction, more distractions, and but it doesn't mean they don't have opportunity to practice the Dharma, nor it doesn't mean that immediately after their karma run out that they will be going to the lower rebirth. It doesn't mean that. Of course, some cases it will be, if they don't create more positive karma there, and if they are just experiencing the previous positive karma and they are not creating more positive karma, then that is possible. But so, yeah.
Great,
Okay.
thank you. That cleared a lot up for me. Thank you.
Okay, the dedication. We do, because the monks are waiting. They are supposed from 11:30.
All right, we'll start with dedication prayer. Sorry, Michael.
We do short. We can. This one we can do, yeah.
Okay. Shantideva's prayer. May all beings everywhere plagued by the sufferings of body and mind obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. And for His Holiness, Gangri, Rawe, Korwe, Jinkang, dear, Pendan, Dewa, Malusion, Wayne, Chen Rei, Zhenghua, Tenzin, Yatso, Yi, Japo, Si Te, Badu, Tenyo, Chi.
I think for the rituals question, I don't think I answered all the questions. I think I remember now. I think, well, I think about how do you know, I think first is good to discuss with others, not just by yourself, with your friends, teachers, you know. That is what I feel like, you know, I want to do and do long retreat or this and this, what will be the best, having more discussions and also knowing intentions, what is the right intention, not just following some moment of emotional feelings, you know, emotional feeling we comes and those are not unstable, comes and goes. On one moment we feel like, you know, I want to leave everything behind and just go and do retreat in mountains. But after 1 week, after 1 month, 1 year, it could change. And then what did I did? I mess up, you know. And then you regret. That shouldn't be the case. So it is something you have to think thoroughly, long terms, pro coins, and why you want to do, and what is the benefit of doing, and versus why you continue to do what you are doing and practicing while whatever you are doing that. So all of that you have to give enough thoughts over time, and also to have more discussions with other people who have done retreat or teachers and all others. And then, you know, then you will have more better pictures and more stable. Once you take a decisions, whatever decide, then it become more stable because you didn't take in a moment of quickly and emotion and like that. And I think those are the things that I just, and then, yeah, then one can decide, and then one will have more better idea what will be better in long term. Okay, thank you.